So ever since the recent files came out about David, the paperwork that actually broke down play by play how he allegedly murdered 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez in his garage, attempting to dismember the body with a chainsaw and a blue kiddie pool. Unbelievable paperwork. But what's really interesting about that paperwork is that it revealed a couple of other very dark details, namely that David had apparently attended radio interviews literally days following the murder of Celeste. In one case, sounds like it could have been as soon less than 12 hours after the murder happened. He was actually doing an interview. Now, a lot of people have been trying to get to the bottom of which interviews these were. There were a few different David interviews that have apparently been going around. People are speculating on what's what. There's some that we've seen on this channel before, some that we haven't. So in this video, I'm just going to do a little deep dive specifically on the series of interviews that David allegedly did right after the murder. So as we now know, the murder allegedly took place around between 10:30 p.m. on April the 23rd, 2025. The paperwork says that David was doing radio interviews the very next morning on April the 24th. Now, it's still a little bit unclear exactly which interview is which. This interview on the Zach Sang show is arguably the one that everybody is saying is the interview. Now, this interview was released on April the 28th, 2025, which would have been 5 days after the murder, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't recorded the day after the murder. Now, there's a few other interviews that have been brought up that have been posted, so I'm going to walk you through all of them, but just in case you haven't seen it, let's have a little taste. We'll just watch a couple of minutes of kind of quite suspect comments from David in this interview, just to give you a gist of the conversations that this man was having hours, if not days, after allegedly committing a heinous murder. It's actually crazy to even think. But anyway, let's hear what he had to say. And just bear in mind, this guy might well have been plunging a knife into another human 12 hours before this. It is psychopathy on another level, allegedly, in my opinion.
It's definitely very, very euphoric. And it doesn't feel real to be like, you know, on tour and to have such an ability to travel like that, you know, and to be able to see the
yeah, it feels surreal because you should be in jail.
Fans in face-to-face in real time and be able to feel that emotion and that connection to them. It's just like you don't believe it. And it's so hard to process that. Like that to me is bigger than, you know, getting a viral song. Like you really have people sitting in this room that bought tickets to your show that's really screaming every word. Like that's insane.
Like, think about that as like an internet kid, right? Like somebody who spends so much time playing video games behind a screen.
Yeah.
And like all these people that, yeah, they exist in this digital universe now exist
in real life.
Yeah, in front
crazy,
of you.
Bro. Like you're supposed to be a comment. Like you're a comment, bro. You're a like. That's crazy. You're really like real. It's so fire. I love them so much. Yeah.
It's amazing.
So cool.
So does it change the way you make art? Yes, obviously. It's how we got to Withered, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, definitely. I mean, like in the process of, you know, getting outside my house and exploring the world and finding friends, finding relationships, losing relationships. It's just everything has kind of been shaping and leading up to this project in such a domino effect way, you know?
Like just...
It's dark when you think about what he just said. He said everything's been leading up to this album in a domino effect way. And he said, you know, it makes me think about relationships that have started, relationships that have ended, people that are no longer in my life anymore. Come to find out, he might well be talking about a relationship that ended in a murder. He might well be talking about a person that's no longer in his life anymore because he ended their life. It's dark. Now, some people are suggesting that perhaps this wasn't recorded after the murder. This could have been recorded actually even further before, but we still don't know at this stage. And I feel like it would be good to hear from Zach Sang to potentially clear some of this up at some point.
It's living life and it feeling...
This album is my life. Like Withered is my life. Petals of Thorns and Lost Petals are what I wanted my life to be, and then Withered is my life.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So where do they align at all?
They do indeed, because like I said, I kind of felt like it was a prophetic thing that I was speaking about heartbreak and love and all these things I had never experienced before, but then I actually experienced them. And it's like, yo, I really said this about myself 2 years ago. It's happening.
But is it what you really expected?
It's weird because I have such a weird view and take on situations like that because I'm always looking for writing material in these types of things. So instead of taking it to the chin, being like, oh my God, like, I'm heartbroken, like, I go straight to my phone or band lab, go straight to the studio and write about it. I never actually like fully process situations like that because I'm always expecting it to happen. And then as soon as it happens, I'm writing about it. So
you're expecting, let's break that down.
Yeah.
Because I understand, like, you going immediately to art, like, is a means of coping.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
But you saying expecting it, meaning like you get into a friendship expecting it to end in a devastating, tragic, sad way so it can inspire art. But Are you manifesting that in a certain
I
degree?
don't know. I hope I'm not. I really hope I'm not because it feels that way. Because like I look back to old songs like "Life's a Dream" and all these songs I wrote in my closet or my sister's closet in 2022 when I'm looking at my life in the past 8 to 9 months. I'm like, whoa, like, bro, these songs are soundtracking my life. So I hope I'm not involuntarily doing that, but it might be that way. I gotta lie.
Interesting. I gotta say, your family's so cool.
I know, right?
Your mom is the reason you like your mom is amazing.
She's the GOAT, bro.
Like you just needed music for your video game videos, and like your mom could have like come up with another solution, but she was like, do it yourself. Like who just goes like figure it out?
Shout out to mom. That's my mom.
That's fucking awesome. Like, and then your sister, the
my
closet
sister too. Yeah.
So what part of this album was actually recorded in that closet? Because it was recorded.
So look, there's some parts of this interview actually later on. Some people are saying that this actually indicates that the interview would have been recorded before the murder. So let's check that out and kind of confirm definitively. And I can actually confirm, while I've been watching this, you might have been wondering why I was on my phone. I actually just sent a DM to Zach Sang and asked him if he could confirm exactly when this interview took place. So I'll let you know if he replies.
Contact with. It's beautiful.
And if he doesn't reply, maybe I'll need to let Zach Sang know we need some answers about when this interview took place.
You still do parkour?
Dude, yeah. I'm practicing new flips for Coachella.
What?
New flips.
You're gonna flip?
Yeah, yeah.
Wait, shit.
Yeah.
Really?
Big flipper. Big flipper.
Wait, hold on.
So the date of Coachella would have been just before the murder took place. So it sounds like this interview was actually recorded beforehand.
Like parkour flips or like a Benson Boone flip?
Both. Because I did gymnastics and parkour. So I'm practicing like, I got to see the stage. I want to see stage so bad because I'm about to be climbing on top of things and flipping off of stuff too.
Holy
We don't
shit.
have medics on standby, of course.
Wait, I need to come see your set.
Please.
I have never seen you perform.
Bro, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy.
I will be there.
Please.
No, genuinely. You will see me. What stage are you on?
I think Gobi, Friday.
Oh,
6 p.m., 5:30.
I don't know when is this coming out? When's the album coming out?
April 25th.
Oh, so this will come out after. Wait,
Yeah.
I will be there.
Let's go.
How exciting.
Let's go.
Wait, now I'm fine. Like, yeah, I'm very excited. I was waiting for someone to come into my life and be like, oh, I'm now jazzed to see this person at Coachella.
Fire.
This is it.
So look, sounds like this was recorded before. So that brings me to my next point, because David apparently recorded this interview. This is confirmed. Apparently he recorded this interview on April the 25th. So this would have been 2 days after the murder.
All right. I read that you're from Houston, Texas, and I know you played a lot of instruments and keyboards and everything. So how did you get started with music and playing keyboards and writing songs?
Basically, it was a very, very unorthodox way of getting into music. I was never very musically inclined my entire life. I never really focused on music or had a drive or a passion for music. I was in church choir for a little bit when I was like 7 or 8 years old, and then my mom put me in piano lessons for about like a week, and I quit after that. And then fast forward to when I was in Houston. I moved to Houston when I was 13 years old, 2012, from Queens, New York originally. And I was in middle school band. I played the flute in 7th grade.
Right.
And
So here's what I'll say, right? That previous interview, we can deduce that was not recorded after the murder because of the way he's talking about Coachella. Now, it sounds like this one is confirmed to have been recorded days after the murder. And I will say that David does talk with a much more somber tone. He's trying to be normal, but I'd say he doesn't seem as relaxed as he did in that last interview.
then after that, I got homeschooled, so I didn't really have any musicality after that. It was mostly just video games and doing schoolwork. Or then I wanted to be a streamer. I wanted to be a YouTuber and a content creator, so I was playing a lot of video games and I was making a lot of montages and putting them up on the internet, on different places, different platforms. And I was using other artists' music in my little videos, but they didn't get copyright strikes, so I couldn't make any money off of it. And after I noticed I couldn't make money, I told my mom, and I was like, I can't make any money. What do I do? And she was like, make your own music for the videos.
Right.
I was like, okay. So I looked up the next day how to make music on iPhone, and this app called BandLab comes up. And I'm like, okay, let's start here. So I started learning how to engineer and program my voice and how to make beats and kind of produce and how to sing too. And I started making songs that very next day. And then I released my first song a month later and put that in a video in one of my Fortnite videos.
So he sounds a little bit more somber in this interview. Now, interestingly enough, okay, later in this interview, he does actually mention something quite interesting. So he talks about some of the songs that he made, and he talks about making music over the past few weeks, and he mentions being in London and Houston, but he doesn't mention LA. And this has some people wondering if this was actually him trying to create an alibi. You know, was this the trip that Celeste went on to LA? Sorry, to London? To Houston? Or is that not the case? Was that way earlier? We don't know that. It didn't say in the last piece of legal paperwork exactly when these alleged trips had actually gone down.
What kind of artistic vision I have, what the visuals are looking like, what the aesthetic is, what the sonic identity is, and kind of just like introducing myself to the world in a way.
Right.
So those two projects are kind of like the two foundations of what this album is going to be. And it kind of gives you like an insight to the bedroom pop side. I got some post-punk songs, I got some rock songs, I got some pop songs. So it's just like those two introductory projects that I have right now to my sound.
Cool. Now, in April, you're going to be releasing your first full album, Withering. And so can you talk about the making of this album?
The making of this album was kind of crazy, too. I mean, I used to do a lot of different projects with different producers, and I went through maybe 5 or 6 different versions of this album. But the most recent version, the one that I'm very happy with, the one that we're going to put out, I made in a total of 4 weeks. So I went to London for 2 weeks with 3 of my friends, and we just made a song every day for 2 weeks in London. I love London because of like the gloomy aesthetic and the gloomy just like vibe and environment that London has. Like there's barely any sun there, and I love that because the music I make is really sad. And then, so 2 weeks I made a song every day, came out with half the album, and then I went back to Houston for another 2 weeks, and I made the rest of the project on my phone just off of beats that people sent me and with some things that I make. And yeah, I just spent 2 weeks in a different area trying to get myself in a different mindset, and then I came back to Houston, put myself in the same mindset again, and made everything by myself. So I wanted to see what I looked like, or how I worked with different people and how I worked with myself, you know?
Cool. Now,
so the way he's making it sound is it's like he's sort of leading you off the trail, making it sound like, oh, he ain't been in LA for a month. He been in London, he went straight back to Houston. He ain't talking about no LA, he ain't talking about no LA recording. Maybe he wasn't in LA.
you've already released 2 singles or 2 songs from your upcoming album, One More Dance and Where'd It Go Wrong. So can you talk about those songs?
Yeah, Where'd It Go Wrong is kind of like that perfect kind of segue into the new era. It's kind of like my fans know that sound for me the most, and that's the sound that I kind of emerged with on BandLab. It's like that classic David indie rock kind of bedroom pop sound, and I wanted to bring that back after being away from it for so long. I did a couple of songs last year for different TV shows and things like that have a different kind of sonic or sound, and I wanted to kind of bring that old sound, that old fresh David sound back with Where Did It Go Wrong? And then with One More Dance, it's kind of like that perfect transition into something much more evolved and much more mature, and a sound that I haven't explored yet really, which is kind of like that super structured out, very intentional song, which is what the contrast of those 2 songs are.
So he's not speaking with the same confidence he had in the interview that was before the murders, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. Now, what's interesting is obviously this clip recording this interview, which I believe is with Songwriter Universe. This has been posted on TMZ, and people have been speculating on r/DaveIdiots. Is this the radio show he went to a day later? Now, from what I understand, I think let me take a look. So this is the actual TMZ article, okay? So this has got a little bit more information about the interview itself. I'll get it from here. But basically, they're kind of pointing out that he talks about these alleged trips with Celeste to Houston and London. So this was an interview published by Songwriter Universe on April 25th, 2025. It's unclear if that is the interview that was confirmed. But basically, there's kind of other sort of examples of this. So what I believe is this interview was actually attached to this article, okay? So interestingly enough, they've added a note. It says this article was posted in April 2025 when David was a fast-rising music star with a bright future. It was 5 months later revealed that he was connected to a murder investigation. But basically, this has got the audio interview as well as kind of like a written segment that breaks down David's history and, you know, how great he is and all this stuff. And it kind of, you know, has him basically talking about situations and, you know, his career and like how he got into this and where he came from and all of that kind of thing, being homeschooled. He wanted to be a streamer. So we've already kind of heard a lot of this in the interview. They've reproduced it here. And, you know, we're kind of not really seeing anything incriminating in there, but what we are seeing is I would say in the audio recording a much more somber David that's not really got that positive, crazy, happy-go-lucky attitude that we're seeing in other examples. Okay, so this interview has been going around Reddit, and people are saying you can listen to the radio show in full. He phone called into the radio interview. And they're pointing out, you know, said he should have said he made the album by himself a few more times. We get it. David doesn't want to give anyone credit for shit except for the beats they send him. Gloomy, dark, depressing, and sad. But it's funny, right? Where's the credit for Celeste, whose voice was allegedly on the album? People saying, I can't stand his ego, pseudo-intellectualism, and this pseudo-artist. Technically, he's an artist, but my God, what's with all these super young musicians who have just barely crossed the line to 20 years old, just speaking so highly of their shit? These lyrics are on a second grade level at best. There's nothing original or prophetic about the album, like he says. The beats are just as basic. It doesn't mean the music is horrible, but there certainly isn't anything grand standing out. Like someone like Rosalia Lux's album, or even when Billie Eilish and her brother came onto the scene. It isn't romantic or beautiful, and it certainly isn't anything kids needed at any point in time. Like SZA said, her speech about him on tour is so gross. With this guy and somber, makes me irrationally annoyed. Okay, people saying, holy yapper, he's really trying to sound smart. Sounds to me like he's trying to reach the word count for an essay. Holy! They're saying that's all of his interviews, saying a load of nothing all of the time. He wants to come across as mature and thoughtful and introspective when the complete opposite is true. He never grew up. Word salads are the hallmarks of a narcissist. Definitely met a few people like that in my time, man. They just waffle on. But anyway, what we're going to move on to next, okay, is another interview. So I've seen a few interviews popping around this same date. So it was this date that the Songwriter Universe interview is released April 25th, but the interview itself was allegedly conducted on April the 24th, which would have been the day after, literally the morning after the alleged murder took place. Now, what's interesting is that there are a number of other print articles which came out around this time. Now, for example, this one in Medicine Box Mag, it appears to kind of be an interview with David at Coachella. So this just so happened to have been released the day after the alleged murder, the day before his album release. But it was conducted at Coachella. And it's funny because he's talking about that viral moment where he tried to do a backflip and face planted at Coachella. You know, this was the interview straight off of the Coachella set. So who knows if he had been planning the murder at this point. But this was
so that's why I made the Cars reference, bro, because in Cars 2, when Lightning McQueen was over, you know, but he got back up, went back into the race. I got back up and went back to the race, bro. It's been like mad love, 25 million views over the weekend. My set was the most talked about out of the Underdog. I feel like real, like, you know, on some Lightning McQueen type.
Yeah, well, he's not going to recover from this, unfortunately, in his career. His career's over with. But anyway, you know, he says the flip wasn't planned. He likes to keep it real spontaneous. No one expected it to happen. I ain't expect it to happen. Unpredictable, right? He's kind of doing his same routine he does in every interview, talking about doing those recording on his phone. He started in the closet. No label, no nothing, just me, TikTok in the closet, right? He does everything by himself. He might be doing things by himself in his garage, and they ain't working out too well. Okay, he's talking about his pre-show ritual. God is his foundation, keeping him level-headed, keeping him humble. He's talking about other people that he liked seeing at the show. It is, you know, it's just such a big puff piece, all right? And there's more of these, all right? There's more interviews that kind of came out around this time. This one, actually, ironically, this came out on the day of the murder. This is David on Getting His Flowers with debut album Withered. He talks about moving on from his Rose era as he shifts the focus of his music to personal experiences. So this likely was conducted before the murder. Who knows? This could have been conducted on the day of the murder. Does it say? He's basically just explaining, you know, how he views his music. I view my music as a beautiful flower. People listen to it for the first time. They think it's beautiful. But then they hear the lyrics and it's painful. Things that can hurt you, just like the rose and stems with the thorns. Just digging into, you know, his same old story. He was homeschooled, didn't spend much time outside, didn't have a social life. I was writing these songs. People are asking where I get my inspiration from. I was really writing songs about what my friends were telling me. That might not be true after all. The decaying process of the rose, it's kind of like a goodbye letter to this era. It's completion. Imagine this coming out on the day you committed murder. It's actually insane. Okay? So I'll get on video games and online chat rooms and all these people would vent to me about things going on in their lives. He was on chat rooms with a very young Celeste playing video games. Okay? So it's crazy, right? He's kind of talking about Romantic Homicide and its success, the Withered album coming out, all of his, big plans for the project and how he thought about it. It says David taps into the confusion surrounding his partner's lies on You Left Me First, which was inspired by David's first relationship, one whose foundation, he says, was built on untruths. It is dark, okay? Although he's been able to turn more real-life experience in his music over the last few years, he's remained in sync with his fans. He still gets tremendous insights from his online community and seeing how they react to his songs. It's always learning. I feel like I'm just in a college class every time I listen to a song. That's why I like experimenting with different things, just to see what the fans react to. I listen to music through my fans, especially my own music, because I can't tell you what's going to stick anymore. I have to try new things all the time to accommodate attention span changes. All my fans going through new things in their lives. So he goes on here, he starts talking about afterlife, all right, and this is where it gets dark. Literally, this was released on the day of the murder, probably before he did it. But it says, in all, the results may be straightforward, but like love, the journey is less direct. That's why David used Afterlife as the first song he recorded for Withered. As the last song on the project, he wanted a clear starting point of the project, as well as it was just stating, love is never simple, it's very complicated, and I like to make sure I express the contrast and the complication and implications of being in love, being a relationship, forming these connections and falling out of love, the different stages of things we call love. It's a universal experience we all experience in different ways, which is such a beautiful thing. I'm not trying to experience love how David experienced it. Fuck no. So there's also a beauty in the loss. That's why even the songs where I'm talking about the really sad themes, even Afterlife, they sound like they're supposed to be happy with the way I put in the strings, the way the songs are structured, and the instrumentation on them. It's just me as a person and how I view things in my day-to-day life as more than just a musician. Yes, more than a musician, a murderer. Okay, so there were more and more interviews. Now, this one came out after the murder. This isn't The Enemy. It says, David, I don't want to make things that sound like they're lifeless. Excuse me? I think that's a bit late for that, allegedly. It says, after a dizzying rise, the former Enemy cover star hit a few obstacles when it came to making his debut album. Yeah, he definitely was some obstacles. He tried to dodge, and now it's much worse. So eventually he tells Enemy he found his path in taking inspiration from himself and following his emotions. So this one came out on the 25th of April, 2 days after the murder, but it's not clear exactly when it was recorded. So it says here that the interview was conducted over Zoom. All right, so he did the interview over Zoom. Doesn't say the exact day that it happened. Could have been this day. Could have been a few days before. It could have been actually before. It will be interesting to see if he mentions Coachella. But he tells the same story over and over again to every outlet, right? There's really not much depth to this guy. He's just always talking about, yes, made songs on my phone, not in the freezer, in the closet. So yeah. And he talks here about the London trip again. He says, it was a very introspective process. I went to London and I was like, I'm going to spend 2 weeks here in this sad, gloomy place. The vibes were just perfect for what I wanted to do and the mindset I wanted to be in. The title of my album, Withered, is like when a rose grows, then decays and dies. Returning back to the dirt. I wanted to use this process to grow and also take myself back to the soil where I started. I was just thinking about my own music and all the accomplishments I amassed and how my creative process changed throughout the past 2 years and how I could go back to that mindset and the things that made my music special and unique. And they always ask him the same boring questions as well, which is crazy, right? How did you inspire yourself? Yeah, I was just filtering through my own, I used myself as inspiration. It's funny, right? He says, I filtered through my own work and how I really created a genre. I had to go back to that and realize all of the data and information I was reaching for was already there on BandLab, in my phone, and in previous file sessions. And thank God all of that data and information from your phone is now in the hands of authorities. It's funny here as well. It says, did going through the process of writing and scrapping songs help you uncover more of what your musical DNA is? Now, fortunately, he was found with a bunch of DNA in his garage, so he will be cooked. But anyway, he says a big part of creation is destruction. I feel like you can't really build something without the foundation being laid out for you. When I was making all these pop and R&B songs, it was like testing the waters. There were some people telling me go the pop route, and that was the right way to go. I'm so good at this, I'm so good at that, but sometimes it doesn't matter how good you are. I could be the best pop artist in the world, but my music still be stale and nobody feel any emotion from it. I don't want to make things that sound like they're lifeless. After the project was done, I listened all the way through. It felt like a complete body of work, and I was just so proud of what I had. So he talks about some of his songs. That's not super interesting. Talks about Kali Uchis being on the song Crashing. Talks about her great work ethic and stuff like that. Now, interestingly enough, this video is now private. We're going to see more and more David links dying. Okay, and it's glorious. But yeah, Basically, it says here, you're someone as touted as the next big thing or one to watch over the last couple of years. Definitely should have been watching this clown closer. But it says, who for you are artists that people should be watching? It gives shout outs to Malcolm Todd, Bryant Barnes. So there was that one. I've got another one for you here. This is Atwood Magazine. Another David interview. This one also coming out on April 25th. And I wonder if it was potentially written down during this time after the murder. Okay, this is fully and unadulteratedly mine. David reflects on personal evolution, the art of world building, and the beauty in serendipitous timing on Withered. Okay, so again, another David Puff piece. All right. Luck and happenstance are inherent parts of life for David. He thought he had better luck than he did, that's for sure. He thought he was lucky, he thought he had the Midas touch and he could just finesse anything, but nope, didn't work out. However, it was less luck and happenstance and more realizing that words, intention, and frame of mind have power to shift reality overnight. Hey, that's truer than you could ever imagine. Okay. So this talks about, his debut album giving a glimpse into his world. Ironic reading that now that we know he might well have self-snitched all over this project. Okay. But anyway, it goes on to give a little backstory about David and, the same stuff that we've heard before. Copyright strikes, started making his own music for his Fortnite compilations. We've heard all of that. And, his music career turned from a flippant side hustle into a deeply resonant passion project. He draws inspiration from a vast array of comics, films, video games, soundtracks. His music nurtures a cinematic universe in and of itself with characters, subplots driving musical themes and chronicling personal tales. Specifically, the motif of a wilting rose, the artist takes immense pride in how he's crafted his world, sonically, visually, and symbolically. I feel like music can be viewed as myself talking to somebody or myself talking to myself. He manifests in his fictional characters. It's a love-hate relationship between mindsets that I have, like how my brain switches or the evolution of my personality and how I'm growing and maturing. It's like growing out of certain things and approaching situations differently. Should have approached all of these situations differently. So maturity and reality are recurring subjects in our conversation. They're entangled, never easy to grapple with, but they're things we eventually undergo and come to terms with. In David's case, maturity came in the form of love found, love lost, and love found again. Withered crosses the peaks and valleys of interpersonal relationships in all their forms, and David recounts his takeaways from such lived experiences. So anytime he's talking about love, and he's talking about, I took inspiration from other people, it's cap. He's putting out a smokescreen to cover up the fact that all of his work was influenced by his sordid relationship with A minor. Okay? So when you view love, it's ups and downs. It's never a solid flat line. Flat line? If it's all straight, that means you're dead. Really? We really just more self-snitching. It's crazy, okay? He gestures a zigzag with his arms. It's got to fluctuate. It's got to have life. It's got to have some moments where you think it's over. It's got to have some moments where it sparks up again. I want the album to feel like that, especially when it dies in afterlife. It's kind of a send-off to me instead of the actual relationship or lover, whatever people want to call it. It's the closing of a chapter. This guy is so obsessed with himself, it's actually sickening. Okay, this is one of the most pretentious interviews I've seen of his. Through it all, David realized one thing. There's not much of a difference between his real world and his fictional one. That's interesting. Oh, what? Not much of a difference between his fictional world where he's got all the anime and the staged music videos with lookalikes of the girl that was actually killed and he's dragging corpses into the trunks of cars. Yeah, it doesn't sound like there's much of a difference between his real world and his fictional one, unfortunately. So it says, most artists today disassociate from the culture of social media in the name of preserving artistic integrity. There's an unexplainable looming shame that typically comes along with gaining online virality, especially when TikTok is involved, but that isn't the case for him. A gamer streamer by day and a multi-billion streaming musician by night, the artist unapologetically wears any and all labels on his sleeve. Being superficially perceived doesn't mean much when it's just about music at the end of the day. He says, at this point, I embrace the imposter. I am the imposter. On some Among Us stuff, you feel what I'm saying? He chuckles, rejecting the weight of imposter syndrome. I am a TikTok artist. I am an Instagram artist. I am a Fortnite artist. I'm whatever kind of artist you want to associate with me, whatever platform you found me on. Okay, I'm okay with being whatever I am to you. What, I like a murderer? I like to speak through the music. I don't care what kind of title you put me in as long as the music is good. Says, I had the opportunity to sit down with David an hour ahead of his cancelled facial appointment to talk about Withered in late March. So this was before the murder, right? Navigating the ups and downs of his first heartbreak, which would have been Celeste, sharing newfound knowledge, narrating the intricacies of his fictional universe. Here, David closes the gap between the human experience and the realm of fantasy in Atwood magazine. Okay, is this more of the conversation. So this is a full-length conversation that's been reproduced. I feel like this one was particularly pretentious and chilling, so I feel like I might want to just keep going. I'm going to cover all of the David interviews, even though this was before. I think maybe let's just skim through it and just see if there's any interesting ones that maybe reference Celeste. So obviously it says here we're a month away from the release of Withered. So essentially this would have been in late March, right? So before the murder took place, but essentially within the window of time when he would have broken up with a minor and was possibly already being threatened by Celeste. So it shows you that he kind of already had all these ideas about his album and what it was like. Sometimes people feel like planning kind of disrupts the natural flow of their work. Do you experience that? I hate planning, bro. I just like doing things as they come to me. It shows, right? It shows. So here again, he's talking about his London trip. So it says, most of your work so far has been pretty DIY. You're known to record on BandLab in your sister's closet. But for this record, I know you went to London and LA to record with all these different people. How was that experience for you? Did you like that more collaborative element of that? Or did you prefer working by yourself in a comfortable space? He said, that was a learning experience for me because I went to London for 2 weeks with the same people that I made most of the project with. Same people. What, Celeste? They say she went to London. I made My House Is Not Home with them. I made There Goes My Baby with them. I made Leave Her with them. These were my people at this point. You know, once you learn it with them, you'd make one song a day for 2 weeks. I was kind of like, what can I do by myself? What can I not do by myself? What is there to learn here? So I did that. I made all these songs. Then I went back to Houston after that. I made the rest of the album on the phone by myself. We recorded the whole process too. Uh-oh, you recorded the whole process. Did you record any of those trips to London with your minor? I found myself even taking songs from the studio in London and remaking them in BandLab just to see if the magic was brought and breathed extra life into the songs. It's more of just finding my flow and how I work with different people and by myself. I've been working on the album for 2.5 years, but we came together in 3.5 weeks. I made an R&B album at first, then I made a pop album, then I had to step back and be like, yo, that's not me. The last iteration of the project is David. So here we go talking about Celeste, and this hasn't been discussed enough. It says, I want to talk about some smaller details. Sounded like a detective. I noticed in the record before we go broad. I like the voicemail you left me first because I feel like it tied the track together really well. Tell me about your decision to put that in. I thought that it was really fun. And the prosecutors think it's fun too. It was really fun that he included his victim on the mainstream album that he released publicly. That was really fun when it comes to prosecuting you. So David said, I kind of wanted to bring an extra level of depth to the project, and he did that. I'd never done anything spoken in my projects before, especially in the last 2 EPs. It was very much, here's the music, leave me alone. With me being fully involved in the creation of this album and putting my own experiences into it, my own life, my own vulnerability, my own emotions, it was more than just making songs for Fortnite videos like I did in 2022. It's my life in the form of music. I had to include some things that happened in reality to give the fans and the detectives the extra insight and feel another layer of relatability and reachability to me and not just be an untouchable figure. Thank God he wasn't an untouchable figure. I'm pulling myself back down and grounding myself in this album's world and this presence and really making it feel like a project and a fully thought out idea rather than a collection of songs. Barely answered the question. So it's very grounded and relatable, but there's a fictional element in it too. I also want to talk about your world building, and I hate using this word, but lore. That's my favorite word. That's his favorite word. Well, there's plenty of lore. The lore on David has gone to a whole nother level, and I'm right there to break it down for you guys. So he said, right, your lore is so extensive and masterfully put together. I wanted to ask about Itami, because if I'm right, this album kind of expands on his journey and story. Tell me more about that. Itami has been a character that I had for years. Even before music, I wanted to put him in comic books. I was writing manga and comic books when I was in middle school. Now through music, he's been like the alter ego and the antagonist of the entire thing. Since Romantic Homicide, he made this debut being the evil version of me, and now he's kind of just woven through my music, my videos, my art, my visual identity, even the songs. At some points, I'm even experimenting with the idea that Itami is writing some of the songs on the project as well. I just like having the extra interpretation of the music. I feel like my music can be viewed as myself talking to somebody or myself talking to myself. It's a love-hate relationship between the mindsets I have, like how my brain switches or the evolution of the personality and how I'm growing and maturing. It's like growing out of certain things and approaching situations differently, how I would do it versus how Itami would approach it. I'm level-headed as myself, but I'm super impulsive and hot-headed as Itami. It's just a cool thing for me and the fans to interact and experiment with, like a character-to-character basis. So it says, since Itami is like the antagonist version of you, do you notice him manifesting in the real world? Absolutely, yeah. I'm experimenting with that as well, with him being able to manifest himself in different people. I did that in One More Dance as his cult was dragging me through the trunk and to my burial. But yeah, he can manifest in different people, cause them to be chaotic, influence their bad decisions, and fuel their flame to do bad things. It's going to be an ever-growing thing. I want people to come to the shows as Itami. Who's on David's side? Who's on Itami's side, you know? I just want to give it a whole thing to play with. Obviously, it's not just constrained to Itami, though. I think in the past you said there are 4 universes in the David cinematic universe. This guy's so pretentious. He says, I'm thinking about retconning that because it's hard to make one thing make sense. And you've got to make 3 other things make sense. It's the process. It's in the works. I want to continue to build it out and maybe put it on paper. Maybe I'll have the other 4 characters live on in a book or a comic rather than being in the music. It's hard to make another version of myself for an album, then another version. Tyler, the creator, is really good at doing that, but I got to figure out how to not feel like I'm copying somebody better. It will happen eventually. And here we go. All right, here we go. No way. No way. Is he capping? He said, on the kind of topic of anime, the dialogue in Invisible String Theory, I think you loosely touched on it in the previous question. Is it the same girl as the one in You Left Me First? You were talking about the invisible string theory, which is the idea that 2 people are destined to meet, and there's an invisible string that binds them together. I know the red string of fate is a traditional part of Japanese folklore, but I was particularly reminded of that anime, Your Name. Was that something that you thought of when you decided to add in that 1 minute of recorded dialogue? And then he caps. He said it was actually from this movie. Oh my God, it's an A24 movie. It's leaving me right now. Wait, what? Is he saying that the dialogue's from that movie? Someone's saying Past Lives. He says, yes. That and Donnie Darko gave me the idea for that. As soon as I had that conversation about invisible string theory with that person, you mean Celeste Rivas Hernandez? That person. Is that the I think you mean Celeste Rivas Hernandez. It says, it was like, yo, this clicked for me. I got to put this on the album. This has to be the entire theme of the project. If you say so. But yeah, Past Lives and Donnie Darko for that one. And there you got the invisible string theory lyric video embedded. Wow. Was it a real conversation or was it something that was scripted and added in? It's real. I had to re-record because of copyright issues, like having someone's real voice in there, but there was a real conversation. I was also inspired by Your Lie in April, Erased for Friend Again, and Afterlife, and then Death Note for Atomic Sound and Say It Back. That is cap. That is, in my opinion, cap. That and this is cap. Absolute cap, man. What the hell? Why would you even put their victim in your album? It's insane. So we've been talking about the more like external factors like your fictional characters and world on this album, but how do you see yourself when you hear your new album? Who is David and where is he on Withered? And he says, that's a good question, man. He loves being asked about himself. He says, I don't even know. I feel like everything's constantly changing and everything's constantly moving. It's kind of hard to pinpoint myself in a specific place in this album. I can't tell you where I am, but I can tell you where I was. The album is a compilation and a collective of all my thoughts and ideas, going through my first relationships, first friendships, falling out with people, losing friends, gaining friends, all these different types of things. I was homeschooled for my first 2 projects. I was playing Fortnite every day. I was making music for superficial reasons. Now the amount of vulnerability and actual emotion portrayed is fully and unadulteratedly mine. In this project, I'm just very proud of myself taking the first step to actually letting people into my head. I was so scared. That's why I went through so many phases of making my album. I was just scared to make it me. I was so used to listening to music and living my life through artists, living my life through other people and living my life through songs, having things soundtrack my life. I didn't have to express myself. Expression came from the outside world. Nowadays, I'm really looking inwards instead of trying to reach outwards. I'm pulling inspiration from inside myself instead of movies, TV all the time. I have much more to say in interviews. I've got a lot more to talk about and I've got much more insight to give. I got advice to give. People used to ask me, oh, how do you deal with this? I'd never gone through a breakup before. At that point, they were asking me, how did you write Romantic Homicide? I don't know. I don't even have a girlfriend at that point. I just love the process of growing. I love the process of developing as a person more than an artist too. This album is like the personification of that for sure. Okay, so we hear more of his kind of bullshit stories about how he takes other people's stories. But here he talks about heartbreak again, and obviously he's talking about Celeste. He says, it was a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. What was your experience with this heartbreak? And he says, I low-key wish I didn't say that. I manifested it into my own life. When I did, it was kind of cool to kind of be saying that in hindsight. Then I prophetically spoke that over my own life and got to experience it firsthand. It's so crazy because then you actually start to deal with that and are living the things you wanted to live. You sometimes forget that you said you wanted it and are asking all these questions like, why is this happening to me? Then you got to take a second to be like, wait, I asked for this. It's one of those things where it's like, I got to be grateful for the experiences I prayed for. I can't be approaching the doors that I open for myself with malice. That experience made this album great. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to understand myself more and my own emotions and taking the steps to continue moving forward. But I am never getting into another relationship again. I can tell you that. Crazy to think that this is just a month before he actually killed that girl, allegedly. It says, what was something you realized when you were going through the breakup? Like, oh my God, I said I wanted this 2 years ago and now I'm going through it. He said, I realize my words have so much power and I can't just be saying whatever. I can't speak this loosely about such a sensitive topic because love is a very sensitive thing. I can't just be all willy-nilly about the fact that I want to have my heart broken. Like, who says that? But it was something. No shit. All right. So this is him talking about this imposter syndrome, okay? And he says, oh, I embrace that. I think we did see this already. They're talking about the project, the song Crashing and, you know, was this the one working with Caliucci's? Yeah. I don't really care about that. And I guess this is the Caliucci song that's the embed has been taken down. I think that's been scrubbed pretty duly from absolutely everywhere at this point. But anyway, I don't really care about all that. I really just want to hear anything incriminating, okay? Talks about how the album is just a gorgeous experience and all of that. It says you're turning 20 in 4 days. So we can actually pinpoint the exact date that this interview happened now. So let's see. So this would have been March the 24th. Okay. So now we know the exact date that this happened. So that's quite interesting. But anyway, all right. He would only have been turning 20, which is crazy. Says, what are you looking forward to in the next decade of your life and officially exiting your teens? Does it feel like there's more gravity to it, more consequential? He will be looking forward to the Chow line. That's all he's got to look forward to now. Says David, I haven't really celebrated my birthday in like 4 years. I haven't had a birthday party in 4 years. I made a birthday post on Instagram, but my team had to tell me to post that last year. For the next 10 years, I want to be able to inspire the next generation of musicians. I'm one of the first people that came up on BandLab, which is an app I still use to this day to make my music by myself. I'm seeing all the other kids just follow after this and be able to chase the dream that I didn't even, they didn't even know they had. To be able to express talents that they wouldn't have been able to otherwise. Because of the availability of resources, money, studios, equipment, and stuff like that, you can make everything right on the phone. I want to keep inspiring the next generation of musicians. Yeah, on what not to do. I want to keep making the best music that I can. Nope. I want to keep making an impact on my genre. Nope. I want to make bedroom pop and indie. I want to put that back on the map. You know, there's a lot of music going around right now that doesn't have a specific place. You can't tell what it is, which is cool, but I want to solidify myself in the genre and be at the same level as Steve Lacy and Dominic Fike in indie culture. That's where I want to be in the next couple of years for sure. Well, life comes at you fast, doesn't it, buddy? So there's a couple more interviews that I do want to show you. So I believe this one actually came out soon after the alleged murder. So this is Universal Music Malaysia. And I want to see the date that this was posted. Am I being dumb? Hang on. So, all right, I can't find the exact date, but what I basically did sort of I did a very high level Google advanced search for this clip. So this clip was released between April the 23rd and I believe April the 27th. So this would have been released after the murder took place, but I don't know if this was recorded before or after the murder took place. But this is an interview with Universal Malaysia. There's a couple of these short clips that also came out after the murder.
Make your first song.
So this is December 21st, 2021. And I looked up how to make music on iPhone. And this
So look, he's got his song playing in the back. I don't want to catch a copyright claim, all right, with this nonsense. But this is him telling that same story that he tells all the time when he's talking about making songs in the closet, you know, looking up beats on YouTube and that kind of thing. I would say he's still in this. I'd say he looks less animated than usual. He was kind of all over the place in that Zach Sang interview, but I feel like in this one, he kind of a little bit more reserved. He moving a little bit less. That's just my opinion, okay? But that's the Benny Blanco interview. And then there's this other interview that was going around. This one's with Huffington Post that was in kind of the same period of time. Hopefully they don't play any of his music.
About romantic homicide because it blew up on TikTok and it catapulted you into the spotlight.
God. So what's interesting is this is definitely after his Coachella set, because it talks about how he turned his Coachella set into an immersive experience.
Up like that.
It was interesting because like because I was homeschooled and like that's really all I had was the internet. I had gained some notoriety on different platforms before. Like with Fortnite, I had 50,000 subscribers. I was getting mad views. Like I was considered Fortnite famous at one point.
Oh, shoot.
I never heard that before. I never heard him talk about being Fortnite famous before.
Oh, you're like a Fortnite influencer?
Right, exactly. And then I moved to TikTok to promote the Fortnite stuff, and I got some followers on there. Everybody knew me as an internet figure, but they didn't know David. When I was putting my songs and my Fortnite montages, I became a Fortnite artist for a few months as well, because all my music was royalty free. I didn't have a label. I wasn't copyright striking anybody.
You opened up for SZA
I did.
on her tour, and that is already amazing, but also she was your first concert?
Insane, yeah. Because my parents didn't, because I grew up in a very religious household. I wasn't able to listen to regular music till I was like 13. I go to no concerts, no shows, I like that. And
so look, I've skimmed through the full-length version of this interview, and there wasn't really anything too revealing. All right, so that's kind of a lot of the interviews that kind of came out soon after the murder. Obviously, if we kind of go full circle, you know, this is sort of what everybody was saying about that original TMZ interview that was came out from Songwriters Universe. So, you know, a lot of people were kind of basically giving their opinion, because all of his interviews are kind of the same, right? We already touched on some of this stuff. So the other interview, there's kind of a bit of a gap when it comes to David interviews, but then when the alleged dismemberment happens, right, David went quiet for the first 5 days of May, didn't post on social media. They're saying that May the 5th is when he allegedly used a chainsaw to perform a dismemberment in a blue kiddie pool in his garage. Crazy. But a few days, about 4 or 5 days after the dismemberment, he actually is popping out and another interview is released, which is interesting. So
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Basically,
How many hours does the bonnet stay on per day at the moment?
So what's interesting here, right? It says this was uploaded on September 10th, but the interview was originally recorded on May the 9th. So this would have been confirmed after the dismemberment, all right? People saying, who is here after Wednesday, April 29th with new evidence of DNA? This was done 5 days after the dismemberment. So this is crazy.
I'm going for Guinness Book of World Records, so I haven't taken it off in the last 12.
Yeah, nice.
That
Good.
shit's
I'm joking.
I was gonna say that shit's gonna be nasty under there, man. Hey,
Yeah, it's just I gotta get a haircut, so I'm kind of just hiding it right now.
Yeah.
You know?
that's why I've got this
You
cap
look
on.
much cooler in your bonnet than I used to look in mine. My boyfriend at the time would be like, I'm sleeping next to, who are you? And I'd have this little bonnet on. And anyway, it was just fucked.
Never seen this woman before. Dude, congratulations on this fucking album.
Yeah.
What a phenomenal effort. How are you feeling about how it's being received, dude? Because it's a really, really special one.
I was expecting a lot of hate. I can't lie, but there's none. Everybody likes a song off of it, at least one. I'm really happy about it. There's no skips. Man, it just, to be able to put together a project that you've been working on for so long, that you poured your heart and soul into and everything, your entire being into, and have the reception be actually positive and people are taking things away from it and positive messages are being received, and just the message I wanted to send is being heard. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
So he's feeling himself, right? He is over a week fresh. He's 5 days fresh from a successful dismemberment. I'm not making no jokes. He's nearly 2 weeks. He's nearly 2 weeks on from committing this murder. He's had no consequences. And to me, I feel like he's built up his confidence. Now, it's interesting because later on here, we actually do see that weird red cross tattoo on his hand, and it looks a lot more like a scar from like an injury. If you remember, we talked a lot about, you know, the knife. I got quite a similar knife to the one that David had been seen on his social media with here, and he had what appeared to be like a cross tattoo on his right palm with like quite a big red mark in it, a scar, which I think could have been actually from him plunging a knife into somebody and actually getting an injury from the knife pressing into his palm. And so that's actually visible here during this interview, if you see here.
I approach the internet with being in the gaming community and being a film nerd and being so online and such a media consumer. I approach music like a movie director. And I wanted to be in the film industry before music was even a thought in my mind. I was, studying the great like Tarantino and Christopher Nolan, and every.
See there? His hand actually looks injured. Could be chainsaw related injury. But he's got the cross, but it does look like that middle part because there's another picture of that cross on his hand that's tattooed in red. I wonder if he got the injury, if he got the tattoo, maybe as a tombstone for Celeste on his body.
And everybody has a specific style of movie.
Mm-hmm.
See it there? His hand looks injured. That looks quite serious.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how many different types of films they make with all these different types of casts, it's always the same director with a specific vision, but every film has that touch. You know it's Nolan. You know it's Tarantino.
So he doesn't really say anything super incriminating here as far as I'm aware, but he did another interview about 1 week later on May the 16th. And in this interview, he would be talking about the symbolism of his music and what he says is finding a new flower, which in the context of Withered and Celeste and the white flowers that we talked about previously, kind of dark.
My approach to music videos has always been trying to make it feel like a TV show and feel episodic and feel like, you know, everything is connected to each other and not just random, because my music is very episodic and it feels like you're taking on a journey through a story. So I kind of keep the same approach to these music videos. And the story that I want to tell after Withered is finding a new flower. So from petals.
Listen to the way he said that. What a creep.
So I kind of keep the same approach to these music videos. And the story that I want to tell after Withered is finding a new flower. So from petals.
Look how much he smiles as he says that. Like, he knows it's like I got away with some shit.
After Withered is finding a new flower. So from that I want to tell after Withered is finding a new flower. So
creepy, man.
From Petals to Thorns was my first EP.
From Pedos to Thorns.
To Withered, which is my debut album, it's kind of been all about this rose and the rose that has grown and now is withered away from the album. So it's like, what is the flower that is going to grow after the rose? And I'm trying to figure out new ways to make it visually beautiful and kind of tell another story and birth life into the next era of David. Video game.
Creep, man, what a creep. And so he goes on more to kind of down this sort of dark path of a metaphor.
Everything, especially the mistakes in the music that I made and all the, you know, artistic flaws that I've had in the process of me building a great album have been important and kind of needed for this entire process. So I wouldn't give myself any other advice other than just, I wouldn't change anything. Because if I did, then Withered wouldn't be an album and there would be no progression and evolution and maturity. So, I'd keep everything the same. Question.
It's interesting, right? So later on as the year goes on, he does a few more interviews before he's eventually caught. In June 2025, he did an interview with Complex, and ironically, in this interview, he's talking about what's in his phone.
My phone got stolen. This is the
It got stolen, did it?
theft lock screen. Yeah, I checked my location on my other phone this morning. It's in China right now getting dismembered, so.
Dismembered?
Tragic. I'm David.
It's crazy, man. Ugh. It's just dark. Makes me sick.
This is what's in my phone with Complex. The crying emoji. That's what I use for laughing. I use that to literally cry. I use that for literally any scenario. David's Secret Ninjas. It's the Secret Ninja group set. Last text I sent was to Andrew Luce, my GOAT, one of my producers. And I was like, yes, hit, y'all snapped. WTF? Crying emoji. See? Crying emoji. Again, you see it live and direct. Most used app. Let me check my screen time. Probably TikTok, man. I gotta stay up to date. I'm an internet kid at heart. So let's see what we got. Justin Bieber and Benny Blanco. Some models. Oh, that's makeup tutorials, I guess. Some dance videos. Hey. Uzi and Mark Jacobs. Shout out Uzi. Sydney Sweeney. Drake. I'm gonna take y'all down the line real quick.
Yeah, super creepy. Him saying dismembered is dark. So the last interview, or I believe one of the last interviews he actually did before his arrest, was interestingly with ABC News on August the 21st, 2025. So just a month before he was actually, or just a month before a body was found in his car, let's say it that way. He would be on ABC News once again talking about the symbolism of his music in a creepy way.
I mean, you got to dance to that beat.
Yeah,
David,
right?
welcome.
How we doing?
ABC News Live.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. So
Yeah, absolutely. You're busy, so you're on tour right now, but you're taking some time to talk about this album. And it's a really cool album because you say that it's about the life cycle of a rose.
I've always wanted to have like a certain symbolism to my art. So I view myself as this symbolic rose that grows and evolves and then withers away, and then like you have a different era of a flower. So starting off my first EP, which is Petals to Thorns, was like the growth and like the starting point of this process. And then Withered, like the end of that chapter, moving on to like the next flower, the next era, everything.
One of the first songs you created hit the Billboard 100.
Yeah.
And you did it with headphones and a phone.
Just my phone. That's the studio. I carried.
So look, he gets into all the kind of usual stuff after that. So I think I've got some other stuff here, but you know what? I'm gonna break this down in a different video, because I've basically got all of his Discord activity from right before the murder all the way up to after the dismemberment. But I'm gonna break that down because that'll probably, we're nearly at an hour now, and that I might spend a whole hour breaking that one down. So I'll do that in a separate video. But that was basically all of David's interviews post murder. A lot of really chilling comments being left there, and it is just dark. I can't believe that this guy was still doing interviews after all this stuff that happened. I can't believe it. You know, it must got to take a real psychopath to just be outside doing all of that after you did that at home. It beggars belief. So look, all right, I'm going to take a little break. I'll be back with some more content about David. I'm going to actually I've got like 4 other topics that aren't David related that I've wanted to do over the past few days, but I've just been so busy. There's been so many updates. I want to cover you guys up to date on the Julio Fulio trial. There's a UFO murder that's gone on, and there's actually even some Epstein stuff that actually has resurfaced that's quite interesting. So I'll keep you guys posted on any new stories, but I hope you found that interesting, and I'll catch you guys in the next one, guys. Peace.